India's historical connection with Islam is a complex tapestry woven with threads of trade, cultural exchange, and religious conversion. The roots of this relationship stretch back to the 7th century CE, when the religion of Islam emerged in the Arabian Peninsula. To understand the genesis of Islam in India, we must explore its multifaceted history, including the interaction of early Indian communities with Arab traders and the conversion of native Indians during the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Today, there are over 500 million Muslims throughout the Indian subcontinent, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, making it one of the largest population centers of Muslims in the world. Since Islam first entered India, it has contributed greatly to the area and its people. Today, numerous theories about how India came to be such a largely Muslim land exist. Politically, some, such as the Hindutva movement in India, try to make Islam seem foreign to India, by insisting it only exists because of invasions by Arab and Persian Muslims. The truth, however, is far from that. Pre-Islamic era contexts. Before the advent of Islam, India had well-established trade routes and cultural exchanges with the Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf. These pre-existing connections laid the groundwork for the introduction of Islam to the Indian subcontinent. Indian ports, notably those on the western coast, such as Gujarat and Kerala, were vital hubs for maritime trade. Early Indian converts during Prophet Muhammad's time. Even before the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the 600s, Arab traders were in contact with India. Merchants would regularly sail to the west coast of India to trade goods such as spices, gold, and African goods. Naturally, when the Arabs began to convert to Islam, they carried their new religion to the shores of India. The first mosque of India, the Cheraman Juma Masjid, was built in 629, during the life of Prophet Muhammad, in Kerala, by the first Muslim from India, Cheraman Perumal Bhaskara Ravi Varma. Through continued trade between Arab Muslims and Indians, Islam teachings continued to spread in coastal Indian cities and towns. Arab traders who frequented Indian ports along the western coast during the early 7th century likely interacted with local populations. These interactions were not solely commercial but also included cultural exchanges and the sharing of ideas. Some of the native inhabitants of these coastal regions have been drawn to the message of Islam, leading to conversions. The exact numbers and details of these conversions are not well documented, but it is plausible that a notable community of early Indian Muslims emerged during this period. Trade routes connecting India with the wider Islamic world remained vibrant. Indian merchants, scholars, and travelers visiting the Arabian Peninsula encountered Islamic teachings and culture. This cultural exchange furthered the spread of Islam in India as many of those natives came back to preach Islam in their local communities. Because pre-Islamic India was entirely based on a caste system in which society was broken into separate parts, conversion to Islam happened in a step-by-step process. Often, entire castes would convert to Islam at a time. This would happen for many different reasons. Often, however, the equality Islam provided was more attractive than the caste system's organized racism. In the caste system, who you are born to determines your position in society. There was no opportunity for social mobility or to achieve greater than what your parents achieved. By embracing Islam, natives had the opportunity to move up in society, and no longer were subservient to the Brahmin caste. Wandering teachers also had a major role in bringing Islam to the masses. Muslim scholars such as Ibn Battuta traveled throughout India, making it their goal to educate people about Islam. Many of them preached Sufi ideas, a more mystical approach to Islam that appealed to the people. These teachers had a major role in bringing Islam to the masses in the countryside. While some claim that Islam's huge population in India is a result of violence and forced conversion, the evidence does not back up this idea at all. Most historians now agree that India's introduction to Islam was through Arab traders and not Muslim invaders, as is generally believed. The Arabs had been coming to the Malabar coast in southern India as traders for a long time, well before Islam had been introduced in Arabia. Writes H. G. Rawlinson, in his book, Ancient and Medieval History of India, the first Arab Muslims began settling in the towns on the Indian coast in the last part of the 7th century. They married Indian women and were treated with respect and allowed to propagate their faith. In fact, the first mosque in the county was built by an Arab trader at Kodungalur, in what is now Kerala, in 629 AD. Interestingly, Prophet Muhammad was alive at that time, and this mosque in India has been one of the first few mosques in the world, thus highlighting the presence of Islam in India long before the Muslim invaders arrived. If Islam spread through violence and warfare, the Muslim community today in India would exist only in the areas closest to the rest of the Muslim world. Thus only the western part of the subcontinent would have any Muslim population at all. What we see instead is pockets of Islam throughout the subcontinent. For example, Bangladesh and its 150 million Muslims are in the Far East, separated from other Muslim-majority areas by Hindu lands in India. Isolated native communities of Muslims also exist in western Myanmar, central India, and eastern Sri Lanka. These native communities of Muslims are proof of Islam spreading peacefully throughout India, regardless of whether or not a Muslim government existed there. If Islam spread by force as some claim, these communities of Muslims would not exist. Islam is an integral part of India and its history. As the Indian subcontinent remains today a multi-ethnic and multi-religious place, it is important to understand the position Islam has in the region. The political claims that some make regarding Islam as if it is an invading religion and foreign to the people of India need to be defied with the truth of Islam's peaceful spread throughout India. India's first contact with Islam was a multifaceted journey characterized by trade, cultural exchange, and, to a lesser extent, religious conversion of native communities during the time of Prophet Muhammad. It is clear that the interaction between Arab traders and native Indians set the stage for the subsequent growth of Islamic teachings in India. This relationship evolved over the centuries, leading to the development of Indo-Islamic culture, art, and architecture. The Indian subcontinent embraced Islam while preserving its rich indigenous traditions, resulting in a harmonious blend of cultures that continues to shape India's diverse cultural and religious landscape to this day. It was all fine until the year 1947, when the British saw that the Indo-Muslim communities are united in fighting against the British invaders. So in order for the British to keep India under their control, they had only one solution, which is splitting the locals based on faith and try to create conflicts between them so they will be always busy fighting against each other and the British could steal the natural resources easily. They turned the thing that once was the reason for prosperity and peace into a lasting war.